Welcome back to my office. Um, I've got a little surprise for you today. Okay, so you might notice that on my vest, I have this black patch. So, Becca started writing poetry last year. I think it was in the spring. And she wrote a poem about what it's like when I go and start writing a new book, and how I'm just kind of like there but not there, and constantly in the world and all that kind of stuff. So I really love the poem, and it really makes me feel like better about spending so much time working on my writing, and makes me feel really loved. So what we did was we took a small piece of paper, and Becca wrote the poem on the piece of paper, and then we put it in here, and she sewed it to the vest. The poem is called I Know This Part, and she's going to come and recite it for us. She's going to do that right now, and she needs to get over here. Okay. So she's going to recite the poem, and this is the poem about what it's like when I start writing a book. Okay.
I know this part. He flies away, but I'll see him again someday. I don't know when, I don't know where, but somehow he will find me there. He'll swoop back in to grab my heart and hold it close. I know this part. I let him go to find a world I'll never know, to walk among the beasts and kings where magic rolls and battle rings. He wanders long. It is his art. He can't stay here. I know this part. He'll bring to me a tale or two, a memory of blood and death, of love and pain, of finding hope where shadows reign. And when he does, he'll lift my heart and hold it close. I know this part, for when he's gone, my love for him burns ever strong. He fills my dreams, he fills my sky, he's everywhere. I never try to hold him back. It'd be too dark. I can't do that. I know this part.
Okay. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Now she's gonna run off and run an errand for me, and she'll be back. And when she gets back, she's gonna be sitting over there, and she'll be working on putting my newsletter together. I wrote it early this month, because I was going through so much and trying to get stuff done. I was really nervous and just needed to work. So I wrote my my newsletter early, like 12 days early or something. And it comes out on the 13th. I'm gonna put a link to the sign up, so that if you wanna get to my newsletter, you can. Okay, so let's get started. So last time at the beginning of the video, you saw road signs: Teardrop Road, Normal Street, and the Keep. And those are the names of the 3 volumes of my autobiography. We did not steal these road signs from the actual roads. There's a company that makes road signs, and we got them to make the signs and hang them in my office. The first 2 are green and white, like the typical classic road sign colors. The last one is brown. The reason I chose brown is because the Keep is actually the name of the home that I plan on building one day, the dream home, when the books take off and things start getting crazy. my plan is to build a dream home, and the keep is the name of that estate. So anyway, that's what I showed you last time. I wanted to show you something from my office. Last couple of the last couple of things that I've shown you in the last few videos have been from the end table by the chairs. And so I'm going to do that again. I've got this. And this is a shaker. I like to have noise making things. You've seen 2 bells and now the shaker. I like to have noise making things by my desk so that people can accent the things they say. So I'm going to leave that right here. I picked it up at Guitar something. Not Guitar City. Something. It was a guitar something. It was a place to buy instruments of all kinds, and I went into the percussion area and I bought that. I bought it because I wanted to show, I wanted to use it for the goat party. And so it's one of the things that I handed out for people to mess around with during the goat party. So that's what I'm showing you from my office today. Okay, what we're going to read today. Oh, I want to tell you one more thing. This is my Avengers shirt. You know, I wanted something different. And when I found this particular shirt, it's not from the movies. And I really got to looking at the characters on the shirt, and they're very grim looking. I'm going to show you a picture of that shirt right now. As you can see, all the characters are really scary looking, and look like they're about to really lay down some smack. You might see that the Hulk, the character itself, this face was very simian looking and savage looking, and it's just a really great shirt, and I wanted to show it to you today. I'm going to take a picture of my desk right now. All right. It's kind of a mess today. Things have been kind of wild. It's kind of a mess. We're preparing to make a big move. I'm taking my office and everything in my office, and I'm moving upstairs. So that I'm going to move it into 2 different rooms. There's going to be a workroom area where I do my writing, and there's going to be another area that's like a sitting room kind of den kind of place where I play my Dungeons and Dragons games. I've always wanted a D&D room, and now I'm getting one, and I get to design it however I want. And from what I've seen so far of the design, it's going to be very, very cool. I'm going to show you a video of it when I get everything done. And you're going to see videos, the next couple of videos. It's going to take us a while to move all this stuff up there, and you're going to see videos of us in progress of moving everything out of here. And then I'll show you when the whole thing's done. One of the things that's going to happen when this room is empty is we're moving the boys down into the basement, and they'll have their own rooms, and they'll have a wet bar that we're going to put snacks and stuff for them in, and food for them, and soda, and all the stuff that they need to live down here. They're going to have their own living room with a TV and all their stuff. And we're calling it their apartment, a bathroom. We're calling it their apartment. It's going to give them an extreme amount of independence, and it'll be very cool for them. One more step towards independence for them. And so we're also very excited. It's going to take a lot of work to get it done. We're going to need to buy some things to make it happen. We're going to need to buy some things to make it happen. It's going to be a thing that we're working on probably for the rest of the summer to get it exactly how we want it. So so that's some of what's going on in our little world. Okay. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to read you a piece called "The Light and the Dark," or the darkness and the light. It's again part of the stuff that comes after Guardians War in my autobiography. Spent the last 4 episodes talking about it, and now we're here. It features a character called Assassin, and he's a very interesting character. He's very intense, and we'll talk about him and some of the things that he's done, and like just everything in the book that's about him that I've released so far. So we're going to talk about Assassin today. Yeah, I'm going to look for it. I'm going to put it up and we're going to start the reading. So I'll be right back. Okay, I found it. It's actually called The Dark and the Light. And this takes place in 2001. Siren's mindset on the matter was that she was a girl. There was no way that she could cause me any real pain at all. Therefore, she could hit us all she wanted. We were a guy, and we could really hurt her. So if we touched her in anger at all, she was outraged. 5 times she hit me. Once Guardian, he assumed he deserved it. By this time, his self-esteem was so low that he decided that this was just life now, and he handled it. He'd lost Becca twice now, and he just didn't care anymore. Once was Shadow. He grabbed her by the forearms and shoved her to a bed and tossed her onto it. She outrushed Siren's outrage, and it ended with Shadow running away and Guardian coming out, confused but knowing he had hurt her physically and hating himself for it. Then Servant. He didn't even blink. He was used to the women in his life hitting him, so he just nodded, apologized, then tried to make whatever wrong he had committed right. Once again, she hit Shadow and he screamed at her. He threw her out of Job's house and locked the door. That was when they broke up officially, but she would stay with us unofficially for some time. We told Stephen that she was hitting us and he jumped at it. A woman hitting a man is inexcusable, Stephen said. She can't hurt me. She's not that strong, Shadow said. The psychological damage she does when she hits you is worse than any physical pain she could cause you. He leaned forward. I had been with him enough to know that this meant shut up and listen. No one in this world has the right to hit you. If they do, if any person, male or female, chooses to hit you or lay a finger on you in anger, you have every right to hit them back, no matter who they are, no matter how strong or weak. No one has the right to hit you. I'm gonna link a domestic abuse hotline. If anybody is hitting you, man or woman, in your life, call the hotline. It's just not supposed to happen. That's not how love works. That's not how relationships work. If you're being hit, do something about it. Step forward and make a change, because like he said, The psychological damage is so much worse than any physical damage could be. So, that being said, I'm going to link it. I'm going to go back to what I was reading. We made up and she rejoined my life as a friend. We looked in every way like we were a couple, but I told her that next day, I can't be in a relationship. I'm too messed up and I need to concentrate on getting myself back together. We can be friends, but that's as far as it can go. As years moved on, I told her on numerous occasions to get away from me, to start a life without me. And if she stayed with me, she was going to get hurt. It was a few days into our friendship when she came at me again. Servant had said something. He was in bed and was talking, and he had told her some hard truth that she didn't like, and she hit us again. Well, she tried. Assassin answered that call. He gripped her wrists and he glared at her. He shoved her back, and she looked at him and shouted, "How dare you?" She shook her head. "I will not be in an abusive relationship." Assassin leaned forward and smiled. "If you ever hit me again, I will slit your throat." She stared dumbfounded. "I will do it." Stephen said no more hitting. If a girl hits me, no matter if she can do real damage to me or not, she can harm me emotionally. So let's just say from now on that if you hit me, I slit your fucking throat. She stood up and walked away. The next day she came back. Assassin was kind of wondering if she would. See, he was like that. He didn't care. He had death in his hands and he was comfortable with it. His dead eyes and his cold demeanor made a monster of him, but he was not a real monster. He never used the considerable amount of power at his command. He kept it all in check for the day when he would be in front of Char again. One night we were sleeping and Becca knocked at the front door. No one answered. She ran around back and let herself in the back door. The house was dark, pitch black, and she made her way through the rooms by memory, and the slight glow of a cloudy night sky fading through the windows. She came to our room and she stepped in. Assassin pulled the knife he kept under his pillow. It was huge, but terribly off balance. He gripped it and he waited for her to get closer. When she was almost directly above her, he rose. Assassin never rolled out of bed. He rose. He seemed to defy gravity with the way he moved. He was on his feet with his knife in the hand before he saw her. She froze. Assassin slipped the blade behind his back. "I'm sorry," he said. "You startled me." She laughed, never once showing any sign of fear. "One of these days, I'm going to learn to stop sneaking up on you." She stepped back and showed her hands. "I have nothing and I will do you no harm. I just came to see if you wanted to hang out." And hang out they did. She had a soothing effect on him. Her laugh made the hate he felt within him feel silly. When she was laughing, his hate seemed like an unneeded part of his life, as if it was a relic of a bygone era. He watched her carefully, and he tried to figure out how she did that. How did she make him almost embarrassed to hate anyone at all? Like he had come to a dance in jeans and all the other guys were wearing dress pants. It started to become a pattern that on therapy days, Siren would drop us off at the clinic, and Becca would pick us up after. She always had a can of Dr. Pepper with her, and we would go to her house and she'd let me cool off. Assassin would drink his soda, then crush the entire can with his left hand alone. Then we would talk. She would give us her room if we needed time alone, and we would take our time getting ready to see the world again. You hear the jingling? Jordi is scratching. He's not really that good at it because he's starting to get old, but okay. This was the first one of these, meeting at Becca after therapy, when he sat at her tiny kitchen table watching her cook a box of rice-a-roni. I know, gross, right? Anyway, she was cooking and he was looking at the table when he asked her about her life and her future. Where are you going? He said. With your ability and education, you could go anywhere or do anything. What does your future look like? Well, I have the agency. They let me part-time there while I was in school and hired me the moment I graduated. She looked at the pan and her eyes got wide. She seemed unable to say the next part. Why did you stay in Springfield? I'm sure you had other options and you could have gone anywhere. You have family in Waynesville, but your parents and sisters aren't here. Why did you stay? We weren't even friends or in each other's lives when you graduated. I thought about leaving, but I didn't want to run away from my problems. I didn't want to run away from you. And she stirred as she looked at the pan and she shook her head. She fought with herself for a long time before Assassin looked down at the table, unable to face her. He knew it was coming. He just didn't know how to handle it. I still can't see a future for me without you in it, she said. Until I can, I don't want to run from you. And that was it. Light had entered the darkness. Assassin's black heart had just a pure array of pure light shined onto it. He stared at the table and he nodded. See, we couldn't see a life without her either. The situation of our breakup in 2000 was beyond his control, beyond anyone's control. Now he was looking at her, still loving him, and being strong enough to say it. This was the conversation that would pull Assassin out of the pit. This would pull him away from the death he had in mind and light him with a new possibility. He knew that he would one day murder Char. But what if he didn't have to? Okay, you can hear the loudest dog that's ever drinking water right now. We're gonna try to push through. Okay, so that was that was Dark in the Light. I'm gonna read you two more readings, and it'll explain more about Assassin. And then I'm gonna explain where he is now, and a little bit about what we live with when it comes to Assassin. So this one takes place in 1998. This is after me and Becca have broken up the first time. And we're just kind of thrashing, you know, wanting to be together, but not being able to make it happen. And different alters were pissed at her for different things. And there was a lot of confusion and pain on her side and my side. And it was just a nightmare of a time for us. And at that point, this happened. So it's called Twisted Visage. The way the room changed, the way the room felt when I woke up that day, told me that while I had slept, another had been there. My bag had been rifled through. This is way before we know about the DID. We know nothing about any of it at all. I'm just living a very confusing, painful life at this point. My bag had been rifled through. I opened it first. For my composition books were in there with writings I had been working on for years. They were in the wrong order. I had them in chronological order, and they were no longer set up that way. One of them was set higher than the rest. They'd been compromised. Someone knew all my secrets, had been through the most telling of my thoughts, and had seen things I said to myself. They knew my fears. I rushed to the door and found it locked up tight. The deadbolt rolled closed, which was impossible, unless they'd taken my key. The horror of it was too great. If someone had my key, Then I would have the locks. I had to have the locks changed. In a dorm room in college, that would be a problem. I found my pants and fished through my pockets. Keyring in hand, I checked it and found my room key exactly where it should be. Had to be Justin. He'd been my roommate until leaving for a single room months ago. I left the room and stomped to his, fist pounding, voice yelling. I demanded the key be brought to me. He opened the door shirtless, showing a scar, his hair a sty, his face showing signs of sleep. "What the hell, Jesse?" he groaned. "I want my key. You still have a key to my room. You bastard, you went through my things while I slept." I curled my fist tight and he laughed, unafraid. He looked at my fist and grinned. "You're gonna hit me now?" he said. He was much bigger than me, but not as mean. "Give it to me," I said, "now." "I don't have it, bro. I turned it in. They made me turn it in before they gave me the key to this one. I swear, I don't have it. Someone else got into your room, not me." I felt frustrated, stopping at my RA's room to check with him. He was sitting by the window, blowing cigarette smoke out of it. He fanned it away and closed the door behind me. "What do you want?" he snapped. "When Justin moved out of my room, did he turn in his key?" I asked. "Yep, so I'm doing it myself," he said. "Were you high?" He laughed, grabbed my shoulder and squeezed. "No one feared me here. They did not know what I was." "Why would you say that, Jesse? You know better." "Call housing and ask," I snapped. He shook his head and obeyed. They had the key. It was not Justin. I went back to my room and looked around more. There on the floor by the bed, my shoes had been shoved aside to make room for someone to stand. Whoever had been in my room had stood right there, right at the head of the bed, looking down at me while I slept. I was a light sleeper. I would have woken. I had no doubt, but there it was, proof that I hadn't. Bag in hand, I locked the door behind me with no confidence it would stay that way, and I left the building and found Becca. "There is no question someone was in my room last night. Was it you?" I asked. I watched her very carefully. Every woman I'd ever known had lied to me. Surely she had as well. I had just never caught her. She stared at me. She was taking this seriously, and I was relieved. No one else I'd talked to that day had. "I was not in your room," she said. She didn't explain that it was impossible, that she didn't have a key, and she would have had to climb all 4 stories to slip through the locked window. She just shook her head. "It wasn't me." "Are you sure someone was there? Are you sure you didn't just wake up in your dream and go through it yourself?" "No, it wasn't me. Look at this." I pulled out my comp book, my hand trembling. I drew in a deep breath and prepared myself to see it again. I opened the page I dog-eared and I pointed. At the top of the page in the corner, written in flowing script, stood out bold and wavering. "I am coming. A." She looked at the page and nodded. "That's not your handwriting." It was obvious by the rest of the page written in my scrawl. "No, it is not," I said. She pointed to the title of the poem that was written there and she scowled. "What is the story about?" she asked. It was called The Bulb. It was about pictures that had been taken of me when I was little, pictures they had not found when they raided his house. "Nothing important," I said. "It's just an exercise." I snapped the book shut and shook my head. "Something is going to try to find me, and it will try to hurt me." I looked her in the eye and grimaced. "I don't know how big a job it doesn't know how big a job that'll be." I got up and walked out. She called after me, but I would not listen. As I left the common room, I stuffed the comp book in the trash. The autumn breeze chilled my face and hands. I rubbed them together, but could not warm them. Yet I felt eyes on me and looked left. People stood all around me. They laughed, they talked, they tried to look important and smart. They seemed better than me, and I hated them all for it. I saw it then, in a distance, standing with its mighty hands down by its sides, balled into fists of hate. It did not try to hide itself while it stared at me. It was tall, wide in the shoulders, and lean everywhere else. It did not move, though it was obvious that the thing was graceful. It wore the body of a man, but it wasn't. How I knew that, I could not tell you. It was not of this world, though I knew it had written in my journal. It was powerful. In its grasp, I would not survive. It seemed to be comprised of shadow and not else. It seemed patient and disciplined. It did not know rage. It did not know feral acts. It was civilized, cultured even, and it was old, ancient. A hate from another time, another place. I turned and walked on. I headed for my room, and the door I could lock. I knew it would not avail me. He had made it past my door once. He could do it again. I looked back to see it standing in a crowd of people in the spot I had just left. I walked on. In 5 steps, I was running. I sprinted up the steps of the dorm and rushed through the hall, pulling out my keys. I found mine and held it tight and ready. When I reached the door, I fumbled with the lock for a few horrid minutes before I slid it home, and with a twist, I was behind a locked door. I don't remember what happened next. When I woke up, a desk was in front of the door, and Becca was beating on it. I came out of my stupor and answered the door. I did not want her out there with it. She stayed with me for a long time. She let me do the talking. And when I said everything I needed to say, she made love to me. When she was gone and the night ruled my room, I woke up at the mirror. I was staring at the mirror in the dark, my eyes black pits, my face half in shadow, half in moonlight streaming through the windows. The smile on my face was foreign to me. I reached for the tiny black knob that would cast light upon me, and I froze. Something was in that mirror I didn't want to see. After holding my hand back for too long, I finally stretched out the last few inches and thumbed the knob. The fluorescent light shuddered, throwing flashes of my face. After an agonizing moment, it shone bright. I saw a horror beyond anything I'd ever seen before. A twisted visage of hate that struck terror in me instantly. The dead look in the eyes told me I was looking at the face of a killer. The hard face told me of a monstrous intent. It was the face of my death. And with a whisper, it said to me, I am coming. Okay. So that's the second reading I'm giving you tonight. And that is the first time that we see Assassin that I can remember. I think that I can remember at the time. As I wrote the book, the autobiography, all 3 volumes, I started remembering more and more and started seeing what he had done and things he had said and all that kind of stuff all the way through my past. I've been through 19 years of therapy. 19 years of therapy, and I wanted to show you what I've learned. When you go through that much therapy, you have DID, each alter tells you their side of each story, and together you can patchwork together one narrative that goes all the way through and tells about their entire life. As I was writing the book, that patchwork began to emerge, and I began to see exactly what was going on. There's Jordan again. Can you hear him jingle? I think he's done. I got to see what had actually happened all my life with Assassin and told a lot of stories about him. That was the first time that I saw him furious at me. And he was furious because I was broken up. I was breaking up with Becca. The breakup with Becca was a disaster. And there's so much of it in this book. And there's so much of it in this book that explains why and how and everything that my story is a story about survival. It's a story about aggression, fighting for the things that I believe are right. But more than anything, my story is a story about me and Becca, about soulmates finding each other, and about the
She gets bored.
she has some water.
Hey, wanna go outside?
It's a story about soulmates. She had this theory when it comes to soulmates. It's a theory that me and my wife share. You don't just get your soulmate. You'll find them. You'll be happy. You'll explore them and they'll explore you. And everything will be great for a long time. And then there will be there'll be some dark event, some intense thing that happens in your life. And you're going through your test. God's giving you, the world has given you, whatever you believe in has given you the one that you belong with, the one you were made for. And now you have to earn them. You have to face whatever test is being given to you. I had a friend who met her soulmate. Everything was great. And then she lost her fortune. And the finances became impossible. But their love survived that. Every story I've ever heard about soulmates has in some that couple has in some way been tested. Me and Becca were tested twice. In the series of blogs that I released called New Girl, you see our first test, and we failed that one. In the series that I released called Guardians War, you see our second test, and we failed that one. But she stayed in my life. You read about it. I just finished reading to you about it. She stayed in my life. She explained why. She worked on herself. She figured out a lot about herself. She went on a journey. I went to years and years of therapy and figured out as much as I could, and we got healthy for each other. And we tried it again. We got back together in 2004. February 9th, her actual birthday, 2004. And we got back together, and we got it right. Outside influences had stopped getting in our way. And nothing could hold us back at that point. Anyway, I'm going to find the next one. And then we're going to talk about what it's like to live with Assassin. Wow, there's a lot here that have his name in it. Here we go. Now this takes place after we figured out the fact that we had DID. We are going through and talking about what we know and who we know and all this kind of stuff. And we have all heard rumor of an ego state. Well, they used to call me ego states. I think I said that before. Alter. We had all heard rumor of an alter named Assassin. People had talked about him. Nobody had seen him, but people had talked about him. And there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of confusion, and there was no clear idea of what he was capable of or what he had done or what he was willing to do. At the time, I didn't remember Twisted Visage. I didn't remember the sign Oncoming 8. I didn't remember any of that. And now when I read this, I am at this point living with a man named Job. Guardians War is over. After Guardians War, I had lost my college career. I had lost Becca. I had lost the place where I lived. I had lost my entire family. I lost my dogs. Anything you could possibly lose, I had lost, except like 2 friends. Well, then Siren entered my life. This dog. Then Siren entered my life. Things got worse. One of those friends took me in and fed me and treated me, and let me live in his house. I was homeless. We talked about this. It's further in the it was earlier in the season. This is happening right about the time we're discovering ego states. I'm getting drunk and all that kind of stuff. So it's a Tuesday and I've gotten drunk and everybody's gone and Job comes home. It's called The Man in the Dark. You would not believe. Bless you. You would not believe the noises that are coming. You got Joe and I and his scratching. Sadie's drinking again. We got sneezes coming out of nowhere. Pretty soon, Rafe's gonna come in here with his French horn. It's ridiculous what's going on here. Is she done?
She's still drinking. I know.
Okay.
I took her outside for a few minutes to give you a break because they're having trouble settling down.
It's ridiculous. Here, I'm gonna play for you while she drinks. I should edit out her drinking, don't you think? I'm not going to. This is the thing. When it comes to this room, when it comes to this show, I'm trying to show you what it's like to be in my office. So this is part of that. The dogs will do this kind of thing when you're trying to hang out with them. I've had guests sitting here talking to me, and a 65-pound dog will try to climb in their lap. We'll be in the middle of having a conversation and Sadie will get started. Can you,
Water's so warm. Sadie girl, you got it all.
anyway, yeah, it gets, I mean, you're in a room with me. You're in the room nobody's ever in. You're seeing the things that nobody ever sees, experiencing that. So the dog drinking is part of that. Okay, let's get back to what I'm going to read you, and then we're going to talk about what it's like to live with assassin now. This one's called The Man in the Dark. Job had come home early and found me drunk and weeping. The phone calls had been going all night, and when all was said and done, the whole of the body had passed out, except him. When Job walked into the house, the man in the dark bedroom slipped his hand under the blankets and stroked the knife laying at his side, closed his eyes, and he knew. He knew what room Job was in. He knew that he still carried his coat in his hand. He knew that Job was hungry, and he knew that he was eager. The night had been hard, and Job wanted a drink. When Job entered the kitchen, the man was up. He stood in the doorway watching Job walk to the fridge and get the bottomless gentleman Jack. When Job stepped back into the kitchen, he was greeted with a scowl. Hey, Job said, how'd it go? Revealing, heartbreaking, quiet and dark. The night was one of nightmares and tears. The night came. Job poured himself a shot and slammed it. He grabbed the mug and poured 2 shots of Gentleman Jack, 6 ice cubes, a can of Dr. Pepper in it. He handed it to the man, and he stood before, and he nodded. Try it. The man sipped and scowled. You like it, don't you? Yes. Figured out the recipe the other day. Have a drink with me, Job said. They walked into the living room, and both men sat down. The room was dark, lit only by the glare of the next door neighbor's outside light. Job lit a candle and burned a cigarette off of it. He handed the pack, but it was denied. Never met you before, Job said. He took a deep drag and smiled. Want to talk? You are Job, Shadow's friend. Yeah, Shadow and a few other people. Are you Shadow's kind of people? He asked. Yeah, Shadow's and a few other people. Both men laughed. You're going to tell me who you are? Job asked. You knew. Where's my wife? Don't know who that would be. Are you talking about Siren? The man's face did not change, but the darkness in the room grew more severe. The whole of the room grew darker, and from the man, a sound issued. It was a drawing of breath, a sigh, and a grunt. It was an expression of anger and bliss, a declaration of purpose and intent. So that's a no then, Job said with a laugh, and will cut her lips off if she kisses him again. She had been kissing Shush, the child altar that had been molested. I give you my solid vow that will happen. Guardian might try to stop you, Job said. I won't. Both men laughed. I have a guess. A guess. As to who you are, Job said. I think I know, though we've never met. If I'm right, you're kind of a legend. What would you call me if you had to guess? You're assassin. Job took a deep draw. Tell me I'm wrong. I am. You gonna try to kill me? I have no reason to, Assassin said. You haven't earned a death. By your reckoning, has anyone else? Assassin nodded. Anyone we know? Char. Your father, Job said. If any man ever earned a death, it would be that useless fuck. Job nodded and drained his drink. You want to kill him? I was crafted for the job. honed to be the one that killed him. We knew that one day we would have to do the job. It was going to come down to him or the child. I was created to snatch the life out of him. Why didn't you? Job asked. Assassin fell silent. He hung his head. Then he shook it. I tried. I failed. Yeah, I see that, but how old were you? Job asked. What age were you when you tried to kill a grown man? 7. Want to tell me about it? Silence. For a long time before Assassin nodded. He drained his drink and heaved a great sigh. I was taught to kill by him. He pulled me into his room one day and closed the door. Shush drew back in horror. Pain went far in, pulled back to nothing but shades and smoke. This was the day I was born. This is how I came to be. Char opened the safe and reached in to pull out a revolver. He pointed it at me and I flinched back. He pulled the trigger and the hammer clicked. That was the moment I was born. You're gonna have to protect her, he said. She's not safe. He was talking about his dream, his love, his daughter. She was his world. He loved her intensely, and since birth, he had been raising us to protect her. He'd crafted Guardian for the purpose. He'd hammered it into our head that her life was worth protecting, even as he taught us ours wasn't. He looked at the gun for a long moment before he smiled and bent to kiss it. You're gonna have to do it if I can. This gun is your weapon. This is how you load it, Char said. He opened the chamber and slipped bullets into the slot. He thumbed the chamber back into place and he smiled. You will do this for me. I will teach you to work this gun. You will keep her safe, even when his eyes trailed off. He stared at the loaded gun for a beat before nodding. He hugged the weapon to his body. Even if I can't. He backhanded me and opened the gun again. I glowered at him. But I did not move. He unloaded the gun and handed it to me. I slid the chamber open and slid the bullets in slowly. I slid it back and pointed it at him. He grinned. He snatched the gun from my hands and smiled. You learn fast, killer. You're gonna do just fine. He replaced the gun in the safe and kicked it closed. He rolled the knob and gripped me by the back of the neck and pinched hard. I took it with rage building in my heart. My life made sense then. It all came together in that moment. He was cruel, he was petty, and he was dangerous. One day, he would kill the child if I didn't stop him. One day, he would hurt us too bad to recover from. It closed off my heart from his. Since then, I have known only hate. Until her, Assassin said. Want to tell me about her? Your wife. Want to tell me who you're talking about? She's the only one that soothed me. My life has been failure and darkness. She is all I've ever had. She is sunshine. She is air. Her touch is healing. And her smile has summoned me back from the edge. She is a reason to be, a reason to live. You're talking about Becca, Job said. Assassin went quiet. Job rose to make Assassin another drink. They talked for a while longer before Job made Assassin laugh. Job was good at that. He made the great killer feel at ease, and soon Assassin grinned and looked at him. I'm glad I haven't killed you yet, Assassin said. Was that up for debate? Job asked. Many nights I have stood over your bed with my knife in my hand, and I've tried to hold back the blade. I talked for long moments to myself about how unsafe you are, but in the end, I walked away every time. Why? You shine, Assassin said. Shine how? Job asked. Yes, How indeed. They kept drinking, they kept talking. They talked of women, they talked of men, they talked of darkness, and they talked of killing. When the sun came up, Job still sat drinking. He set me up to fail, Assassin said. Taught me half the lesson. Part of him knew that he would do to her what he had done to Shush. Part of him knew that he was going to have to hold back. So he trained me to kill him. But he is divided as we. He has shades of mind. And within him is a beast who did not want to die. She was up there with him, up in the attic. Child had been set in front of a movie. He'd been told to watch it to the end, and the two of them had vanished. Child sat happily singing to Robin Hood while vile deeds were being committed. I knew. I rose to the safe, and I opened it, to the gun, and I loaded it. It was heavy. Assassin was crying now. There were slow tears, tears of regret and loss of purpose, loss of life. But more than anything, they were tears of loss of destiny. For Assassin would forever be hounded by the tale he told now. I carried the gun up the stairs. It was heavy and it felt good in my hand. I took it up the stairs and stopped outside the door to the terrible room that only Shush knew. I called for him in a child's voice. Daddy, I said, gasping breath. Go away, Jesse. I told you not to bother us. Your sister and I need some time alone. You have to go back downstairs or I'm gonna, my hard resolve. Get out here, I said. Nothing, in silence. There was no response for a long time. And I began to think I would have to go in after him. But then I heard the clink of his belt being refastened and he jerked open the door. He stared at me and he gave me a sad kind of smile. I pointed the gun and I pulled the trigger. Job went quiet. He took another long, slow drag from his cigarette. He pushed it out. Safety, Job said. He'd not taught me all of it. He had allowed himself a door away. I pulled the trigger again and he stomped towards me, tossed the gun at him and fought to run away, but he was faster. When the beating came, I had to go within. I was not built for shame. They needed to keep me honed and ready. They needed to keep me strong. The day was coming when I'd get another chance. The day was coming when protecting the child would demand I kill this man. I left. I'd failed. My chance would come again. But it didn't. So I sit here, unused, unfulfilled, a wasted weapon. The gun never fired, a blade never cutting. I wait for my next chance and I stay ready. I can't let him live. It's him or me. One day he will die by my hand. There is no other way. Okay. So that is all the readings I'm going to do today. I could read a couple more about Assassin. Man, this video could be 16 hours long if we talked about Assassin all night. Those are the ones I want to talk to you about, though. Those are the things I want to say. We're going to go and we're going to, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk to him. I want to tell you where we're at with him right now. Because he is Assassin and he lives in a house with 3 people. And he's capable of murder. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about him, maybe get Becca to come over here and explain what it's like living with him and explain to you in a way that I can't how nobody in this house fears him and nobody out there really should. I want her to try to explain the relationship she has with Assassin. Now, all of our alters have a proper name. Assassin is his title. His proper name is Harufdamont. You don't have to remember that. We all call him H. So when we talk, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be using the name H. So we're going to have that conversation and kind of tell you what it's like living with him now. So I will be right back. Okay, so carry a knife on me everywhere I go. This is my pocket knife. It's a buck. I'm very proud of it. This will be with me for the rest of my life. And when I give it to my child, Tobin, because he gets all my knives, when I give it to my child, it'll be with him for the rest of his life. Doesn't matter how much we use it. And if it chips, breaks, in any way is damaged, Buck will replace it in 300 years or something. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's the knife that everyone uses, and it's Guardian's knife. This, however, is Assassin's knife. I'm not even supposed to be touching it, but this is Assassin's knife. There's a bit of a story about how I got it, but I'm not going to tell the story. This goes in our left pocket. Because Assassin is left-handed. H is left-handed. The rest of us aren't. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty wild. But when he uses his left hand, it's okay. So when we found him, he was very dangerous. He loves back on nobody else. As time has gone on, he has stayed just as intense. But he has expanded his love, and he has stopped with the desire to kill. At one point in 2006, we went and faced our abuser. We went and faced Char. And when we did, Assassin got to talk to him. Scared the life out of Char to have to look at that face again. And when they did that, Assassin found peace, and he stopped the hunt, and he stopped waiting for his day to kill, and he was able to start creating more relationships in his life. So I want to bring Becca in here and have her talk. In her, she's right over there. Have her bring over here, and she's going to talk. She's going to talk for a little while about what it's like to live with him and what to expect from him and stuff like that. So just talk about H for a little while, and basically like quiet everybody's fears.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier something about how he's not a threat to anybody in this house. And that's very true. The best framework to think about for H is that he was created for a life and death situation. And he is at his root, he is a defense mechanism for Jesse. He's created as a self-defense mechanism. So the bottom line is, if you're no threat to Jesse, then H is no threat to you. So, everyone in this house, we make sure that we have a healthy communication and that it's a safe environment for everyone emotionally and physically. And we've put a lot of time and effort into the mental health of our marriage and the household and how we run it. And I know that in some of the readings you heard, basically, if his personal safety is feeling threatened, then his defense mechanism gets very extreme very fast. And so that's something that they addressed a lot in therapy. And it's also something that we take into account. It's one of the reasons why we made mental health such a big priority for our family and our marriage. And really, communication is the healthy, open communication is like the foundation for that, because then everyone knows that they can trust each other and that they can count on each other and that they will, support each other. And we foster that in our kids all the time. We tell them that they're a team. We don't encourage competition inside the house against each other or anything like that. So we try to just really be mindful that we're keeping things very positive and that nothing is, damaging anyone in, certainly not in a physical way, and also not in an emotional or mental way. And there's a lot of value in that. And the thing about H is, if you get to know him as a person, he's really fascinating. He's a man of extremes, but he has really good instincts. He knows how to read a room, and he has a lot of patience. And he can really also bring a lot of focus and determination to a situation. So he's really fascinating, and he has a lot of great strengths that are, really valuable. And I never saw him as a type of person who was bloodthirsty. It wasn't like that at all, like ever. So yeah, so that really, it's not like you have to worry about being one step away from a killing spree or anything like that, so
Okay, so one morning, like we're on a 48-hour schedule. I've talked to you about that before. So today was a sleeping day. So I slept from 2 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I woke up and we started our day. So tomorrow when she wakes up, I'll be awake. So I always make her coffee and let her wake up slowly and all that kind of stuff. And that is really nice. She gets coffee and she gets taken care of in the morning every other day. So one day I go to wake her up. She says a collection of words that pulls H out. And he sees to her and takes care of her. It was extremely gentle. It was a really crazy day.
do you remember it?
H does not bathe himself. He does not shave himself. He does not dress himself, because in his mind that is below him. Any kind of service to this body or anybody else is below H. So he has to keep a certain, I think that what he's doing is he's keeping a certain elevated status so that if he's needed, everyone respects him and steps out of the way. When he comes out, everybody kind of parts for him. And so if an emergency situation were to occur, H could step forward and everybody would get the hell out of the way. So
I think that's a good way to look at it.
He does, yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't, so he doesn't allow himself to take care of it. He never eats. Everybody else takes care of all that for age. So it was really weird when I found out about it later, because he got her up and she did all the morning stuff. And then he takes her into the kitchen and he sets her down and he makes her breakfast. And it was weird because he made the breakfast and she eats toast in the morning. So he made her toast and he puts the butter on it and he puts the jelly on it using his left hand. And we're all like, what the fuck? Like, it was all exact, precise, no fumbling around. The guy's very graceful. Watching him move is like watching a hunting cat, right?
Mhm, yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, and he's very left-handed.
Yeah, and he's
He's,
very
he's
left-handed.
very left-handed.
He's
Yeah.
very left-handed.
So it's
Um,
super interesting.
So like he made breakfast for her and he talked to her and they had the entire thing, and it was really
It was really different. Yeah. So he's like, I mean, I think I would really say, like, patience is the word that I would use. And it was a weird morning. I hadn't slept very well. I don't know. I was coming out of a dream or something, and I said some things that brought him forward. And then it was like a really kind of slow paced. And like I said, he's got really good instincts. So he knew like exactly what to do. And he's kind of quiet and patient and everything. And yeah, like he made breakfast for me, and it was just really like, low key and no pressure and
Tender.
no rush. Yeah, very
Tender.
tender. Yeah, very tender. Yeah. This is really, so he has a very attentive sort of side to him
yeah.
that is
Yeah.
really sweet.
He's
Yeah.
one of those people too, when you're in the room with him, you're in the room with him. Right?
He's vastly different from most of your alters in that he's so quiet and so serious. So it's very rare for him to laugh. And he's also not very talkative. So he is one who is like really noticeably different from a lot of your other alters, because are more extroverted, and he's not. So yeah.
So anyway, knowing that he's in there gives us a lot of peace.
Mhm.
Knowing that if the worst should happen, we have this defense thing built into us.
And that's really why I was never afraid of him. I was never afraid of him because I knew that I wasn't a threat to him. And I understood from the beginning that his purpose was a kind of extreme self-defense, and that he had to rely on his instincts and his assessment of the situation. And so I knew that as long as I was no threat to him, and I knew that I was secure in that fact. I was secure in the fact that I was no threat to him. And so I would stop and give him whatever time he needed to assess, my place in the room or whatever. But then I was just never afraid of him, because personally I knew that I was safe for him. So
yeah. There's this other thing. She has a separate sex life with each one of the alters. We're not going to discuss that, but but I will say is that this very weird thing happened where whichever alter was the one she had sex with when a child was conceived,
right?
Conceived,
Conceived.
not consumed.
No.
When a child was conceived, whatever alter was doing that, whichever alter conceived that child, the child that was born took on qualities of that alter. And Rafe was conceived when H was conceived by H and Becca. So Rafe is quiet and he's reserved
Mhm.
and he's, you know,
He likes to walk into a room and assess the situation.
Yeah.
He does. He's very observant. Yeah.
he's very much like H.
Mhm.
And so so Rafe has taken on qualities like H, and he is definitely H's son.
I want to talk about the sex life a little more. No, a lot of people think it's strange, and that's definitely a question that raises a lot of eyebrows. But the way that I have looked at it is that in that DID is a breaking of the consciousness, and in a person who doesn't have DID, they have several different compartments of consciousness. They're just fluidly connected. So if you think about, for example, like you're a certain person at work and you're a different person at church and you're a different person at home and you're a different person when you're cooking and you're a different person when you're playing sports, you know, there are these different kind of areas in your mind that you use for different parts of your life. And so the way that I look at it is that there are these different parts of his mind that he's sharing with me. And so it's just a different kind of intimacy with that part of his mind. And so I don't look at it as a kind of like thing where it's really separate, multiple kinds of partners. It's more of a thing where it's like being allowed an intimacy with that part of his consciousness.
Right.
So like ultimately all of it is Jesse, and like that's the bottom line. So
Right.
yeah.
So anyway, Servant is the one who conceived Tobin, and Tobin has a lot of like host-like qualities. When you're around Tobin, he wants to show you things. He wants to explain things to you. He wants to bring you food. He wants to
Let's
bring you
make sure
drinks.
everybody's having a good
He
time.
wants to make sure everybody's having a good time.
Mhm.
Tobin is very much like Servant, and that's when, and you know, Servant is the one that conceived Tobin. It's very weird, but it's very cool how that whole thing worked out.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we've covered
Anything
everything.
else?
I
Yeah,
think we've covered everything.
that's a lot.
So I'm gonna cut it off here.
Mhm. I mean, H is really fascinating. He's right. We could make a 16-hour episode.
Yeah,
about
we
H,
can
but-
make, yeah. I'm gonna cut it off here.
I'll let you
Do all the things
go.
and come back and see me next week. And I'm going to link the poem. I'm also going to link the same thing I linked last week, which is a collection of like a compilation of all the poems that
Oh, yeah, all the poetry readings.
she's done. I'm going to link that in case you heard something today when she was reading or when she was reciting that you liked. I'm going to link that. And I gotta go because we've got to edit this thing before she goes to bed tonight, so that we can start downloading, uploading it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna say goodnight, do all the things,
Yep. do that.
and we will see you later.
Big.
And thank you.